friends, it's Liz from the Peacock Homestead, and this week we've been really busy. I've been making cheese, we've been planting in the garden, I've been water glassing eggs because we've been getting a little abundance, so I've just been stocking them away so we can have some for this winter, and we've been super busy. So I just wanted to take you guys along and share all that with you, and I hope you enjoy the video. I started off at the beginning of the week planting a couple beds in the front. So I'm planting some beets, and I got these from Gurney's. And then I also have some carrots that I wanted to sow as well. And I'm gonna put half of the bed beets and half carrots, and we'll see how that goes. So I'm just gonna fluff up the dirt a little bit and make some rows, and we're gonna get these planted in our garden. So the hubs and I came up and we brainstormed about what we were gonna grow in the garden this year in all of our little garden beds. And we decided we're gonna grow what we eat the most. So we are growing potatoes, onions, and we have a bunch of root vegetables like carrots and beets all up in the front. And we are going to be growing some tomatoes. I have butternut squash and buttercup squash, and some watermelon just for the fun of it. And I also have a bunch of herbs that I have as well. So I have some lemon balm and thyme. I'm trying to grow rosemary, but that seems really hard to start from seed. I might have to go get a cheddar plant at my local nursery. Just because I cannot live without rosemary. It is one of my favorite spices. I use it in so much for infusing oils and whatnot and making tinctures. And I am going to be flavoring a cheese with it with some olive oil. I'm so excited to show you guys that soon, hopefully. But I'm excited about getting these beds done, and we are going to be really busy with this garden this summer with 14 beds. And then I plan on planting a bunch of stuff around the house as well, because we have some good soil in the front, in the front of the house where there is flowers that I transplanted. I transplanted a whole bunch of perennials like my hostas, and then I have poppies. I also have a bunch of peppermint, spearmint, and chocolate mint. And then I have some lemon thyme, daylilies, and lily of the valley. I think I have a couple of rhubarb up front. I do need to transplant them because they hate it where they are, because they keep shriveling down to nothing. So they are definitely not happy with me. So I have to find them a new home, probably in one of these garden beds. In this bed, I decided that I was going to plant some bush beans and some sweet peas. These are the little sweet pea seeds. They are so cute. They look like little pink dice. And then these are the bush bean seeds, and I usually let these go to seed so I don't have to buy them. But this year I decided to get a couple of different varieties, and we'll see how that turns out. After I get this one garden bed planted, I am going to give it a good watering, and then I'm going to head in the house and we're going to start making my farmhouse cheddar cheese with a little twist. I'm adding some chili flakes. And I got this milk at a health food store. It was pretty expensive. It was $6.99 for half a gallon. That's ridiculous. But first thing first is I'm going to bring this milk up to temp, 90 degrees. And then I'm going to add my mesophilic starter culture, 1 packet. And I'm going to let that dissolve and rehydrate for about 2 minutes. And then I'm going to come back and add my calcium chloride, which is going to be a half a teaspoon in 1/4 a cup of non-chlorinated water. Then we're going to give that another stir, and then we're going to let that rest and marinate and work its magic for 45 minutes. The 45 minutes is up, and I'm gonna go ahead and add my rennet. That's a half a teaspoon, and I diluted it into 1/4 cup of non-chlorinated water, and I'm gonna stir for around 30 seconds. And I'm gonna cover this and let this rest for a good 45-50 minutes. And now that it's been setting and coagulating, it is time to check to see if it has a clean break. So I'm just gonna stick my spatula in there and lift up. And I don't know, it seems a little bit sploogey, so I'm gonna wait 10 more minutes. And then I'll come back and I will cut the curd, and then we're gonna let that rest for another 5 minutes. Now that the curds have rested for 5 minutes, I'm gonna go ahead and stir this, and I'm gonna bring the temperature up to 100 degrees over the next 30 minutes. And I'm gonna stir these really gently so I don't make them into mush. So I'll just come in and stir occasionally every 3 minutes and break up any large clumps. It looks like it's getting there, almost to 100, so I'll just kind of regulate the temperature. You see how the curds are getting smaller and smaller and the whey is surfacing. So I'm gonna do a little squeeze test. It's almost ready. We'll give it a few more minutes. It does look like it's holding together fairly well though. It looks like it's ready, so I'm just gonna strain this whey out, and I'm probably gonna save some for the animals, and I'll probably make some pancakes or something with this, and probably a couple protein shakes. These are really nice looking curds, so it's gonna hopefully make a really nice cheese. I got this into a cheesecloth, and I'm gonna let it strain for an hour. I'm gonna cover this up to keep the curds warm because I don't really want them cooling off. And that's the whey that I got. I got a whole gallon. I'll let this whey cool off, and then I'll just store it in the fridge. I'll be saving that for the animals and then doing a couple neat things with it. So I'm gonna take this out of the cheesecloth, and I'm gonna crumble it up, and we're gonna add the salt, 2 tablespoons of salt, and then I'm gonna add the red chili flakes. So I parboiled them for a minute just to make sure there is no bacteria that was in the spices, and so it would not ruin the cheese, because sometimes that will ruin the whole cheese. And I'm gonna get that all mixed together, and then we're gonna get it in the press. We're gonna press this at 10 pounds for 10 minutes. All right, we're gonna get ready for the second press, and that's gonna be for 20 pounds for 10 minutes. And it looks like a crumble cake right now, but it will look amazing after the last press. So I'm gonna flip this over, get it back in the cheesecloth, back in the press, and we're gonna do 20 pounds for 10 minutes. All right, let's take a look at this. We are finished the second press and we're going on to the third. So it looks like it actually knitted together a little better. It doesn't look like it's falling apart anymore, and it looks so pretty with these chili flakes. I'll give it a flip, and then it's going in the press for 12 hours, so I don't have to babysit it anymore. It'll be going for 12 hours at 60 pounds of pressure. Look how pretty that is. This one's going to be a good one. All right, let's take a look at this. It's finished its 12-hour press at 60 pounds of pressure, and it looks amazing. I'm really happy with this cheese. And I'm gonna let this air dry for 4 to 5 days because it is a cheddar. I'm gonna let it get a nice dry rind on it. And I'm gonna put a picnic saver over it. I have it on a plate with a little reeded mat. And we're just gonna let that air dry for a few days, and then we're going to come back and vacuum pack it and label it and put it in my refrigerator because I do not have a cheese cave yet. And I did weigh it. It weighs about 2.2 pounds, so that's exciting. It will probably lose some weight during the drying process, but that's fine. And then we'll vac pack it up, label it, and put it in the bottom drawer of my refrigerator. So that's my cheese cave for now. And when it was all dried and cured, and when I vacuum packed it, it weighed 1.96 pounds. So it did lose a little bit, but not too much. It was so beautiful outside. I wanted to go out and harvest some dandelion and stinging nettle. I was going to infuse both of those in vinegar. So for the dandelions, I'm going to infuse that in apple cider vinegar. And for my stinging nettle, I was going to use my spruce tip vinegar. And it's kind of my version of a non-alcoholic tincture. It is a flavored vinegar, if you will. And I use this for culinary use and medicinal use. So I'm going to bring these inside and give them a good wash. But before I do that, I was going to go and harvest some of the stinging nettle in my garden. I usually harvest nettle all summer long, but the best time to harvest is in the spring when the plants are really small and they just started sprouting. And I'm going to take just the tops off and I'm going to make a tea with it and that tincture that I was talking about. So what I do to make this infused vinegar is I chop the whole plant up and then I infuse it for 4 to 6 weeks. And I shake it once or twice a day for about 1 to 2 weeks. And you'll see the plant matter kind of float down to the bottom of the jar. And then you won't have to worry about any mold growth anymore. And then you can let that sit for 4 to 6 weeks and it makes a beautiful flavored vinegar. I use mine in salad dressings and I use it for my mayonnaise, my homemade mayo. And I also just put a little bit in my drinks. I put it in my tea and whatnot, and it is super delicious, especially with this apple cider vinegar. And I also put this little flavored vinegar in my chicken's water as well, just to boost their immunity. And it's super good for their health. As for the stinging nettle, I'm going to do the same thing with it. I'm going to kind of chop it up with these little scissors and I'm going to infuse it in my spruce tip vinegar. I'm going to use it the same way as I would the dandelion infused vinegar. The last thing that I was going to share today is how I water glass my eggs. So I have this Mrs. Wages pickling lime. I ordered that off of Amazon and I'm using a cup of that to 2 gallons of water. I have a food grade bucket here that I got at Lowe's and I labeled that, and I'm going to mix that all up and give it a good stir. And then I'm only taking my clean eggs. I'm not washing them, but I'm making sure there is no feces or mud on them. You want the natural bloom to stay on the egg. You don't want to wash that off because that is what's going to protect the egg from the lime. And when you go to use them, you're going to rinse them off with cool water, and then you're going to crack one at a time open and give it a sniff, because just in case it goes bad or anything, because you'll know it will really stink. This is how my husband and I love to preserve our eggs when they get crazy in the fridge, because I don't have a freeze dryer. I don't have room in my freezer for eggs, and I don't really want to dehydrate them because it would make the electric bill skyrocket, and I don't want to do that. I kind of want to preserve these eggs using the least amount of energy that I can. This definitely helps out when the hens aren't laying in the winter when they're on a laying strike. This is what they look like when the water and the lime solution is all settled. Looks like there's little sand dunes on the eggs. It looks pretty neat. And then I'm going to store it in a dry, cool place in my pantry. I just wanted to thank you all for joining me today. It was so fun spending time with you and sharing all my homestead happenings. I hope you all have a blessed week. And if you are new here, I love it if you give me a subscribe. Many blessings, and I will see you next time.